Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, it was our fault. We made a mistake. The spotter said it was clear. It wasn't clear, and, I didn't want to tear my car up, tear his car up either. I respect everybody, and I demand respect. And, I apologized to the guy when he came over the car, explained to him what happened, and then he took it to another level when he started calling me an idiot and whatever else. And I don't appreciate that. I'm not going to take it. I told him how I felt. I called him out. He didn't show. And so, I'm good with it if he's good with it, but I'm not going to be disrespected by no means.
Yeah, I guess I had a dinner date at Applebee's last night that I didn't find out until it was too late. It's a shame. Love their riblets and boneless wings, but...
Give it to him, Brian.
Oh, God. All right, folks. Oh, fuck off. Don't make me laugh. Jesus Christ. Fuck. All right, folks, welcome back to Meet Me at Applebee's, your number one unrefined motorsports podcast. It's Brian back again with Rob and Ashley, as always. But this week, we have a guest with us, Kyle Ayala. He was the one who brought me to Bristol with him. So we're going to talk all about that in a little bit. But before we dive into that stuff, folks, how are we doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good. I feel like I got more sleep than all of y'all did this weekend, especially on account of that race and the Knoxville Lucas Oil race, because those are all some snoozers. And Eldora wasn't until like 1 a.m. for the 4 Crowns. So, yeah, I'm well rested. How are you guys doing? How about you, Trullo? How are you surviving after a weekend in the campgrounds?
I'm still recovering from sleeping on the ground at Bristol, but I'm all right. Preparing for this hurricane that's about to roll through Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Hope you got enough sandbags.
How about you, Kyle?
Oh, I'm golden. Living the dream. That's the most cliche phrase I could say right now.
Well, yeah, we'll get into that later on in the show. But before we dive into the big Bristol recap, we're gonna go over the news and notes first, because Bristol, there's a lot to say. First off, our good buddy Andy NEWSOME, he was at the race as well with all of us, and
Yes.
He made it onto this NASCAR fan YouTube video that I actually did sign up for, but totally ghosted the guy because I just was not feeling like filming shit all day on my
You're
phone.
not Andy NEWSOME?
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not the personality Andy is either. But did you guys? I didn't get a chance to watch this. Like, what? How was it?
Oh, he's just they ought to give that fucker a TV show. I'm telling you.
Yeah, he was the star of that whole thing.
Of course.
Yeah.
He just needs to be the new Rutledge Wood. Like,
Agreed.
just put him at every race and have him tell you exactly what is going on, and that's like your go-to guy.
I agree with that 100%. What did he say in that? He's like, we're about to go get us some moonshine to wet our whistles. And I was just like, yeah, that's exactly what I would want to be doing. But
Yeah, they went and got some moonshine in it. He had a big-ass hot dog in it. He yelled a bunch. Yeah, typical Andy.
classic Andy NEWSOME on video experience. But yeah, if
You
anyone...
summed that up pretty well.
If anyone from the racing media world is listening to this, of course, Flow Racing, Dillner, anyone from NBC, I know you're not, but if you are, just give this man a fucking contract and a camera. Let's go, please.
Yeah.
I mean,
They had
shit. At
a
least
bunch of... Go ahead.
I was gonna say at least Dillner could probably use him because he's at all the dirt races anyways.
That's true. Well, I don't know if Flow covers Natural Bridge, and that's where Andy NEWSOME tends to live, but if they do... Yeah, he's definitely got to be number one on the correspondence list. Also, really proud of Andy because he doesn't say or yeah or any of the shit that I do or most people do. So he's got the gift. So
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
They also had that old dude who I've seen for like decades who has all the track logos tattooed all over him.
oh yeah,
And I'm kind of bummed that I didn't see him in person.
What a guy.
Yeah.
that's dedication.
Yeah. But Andy told me that that guy might be doing it. The guy that put this together might be doing it again at Martinsville. So me and Andy are going to be at Martinsville. So
Hell
might
yeah.
get a
you
part
gotta-
2 out of it.
There you go. You better be on it this time.
Yeah, something's got to make that race interesting. That's for sure.
Speaking of interesting, though, one of our favorite drivers was in the news right after we recorded last week.
Yeah, the
Corey
good
LaJoy.
news always drops right after we stop recording,
Yes.
doesn't it?
It seems like it. But so Corey LaJoie and Justin Haley did a very unique ride swap. It was announced, I believe, Friday. It was either Thursday or Friday at Bristol. That the following week or this coming week in Kansas, they'll be in different rides. So Haley is already signed to Spire for 2025, which I think we talked about last week on the show that was going to be happening. So not really a big surprise there. However, Corey LaJoie is not signed to Rick Ware Racing yet. This is a trial period for him, so he's still going to be fighting for a job. And
the free 7-race trial.
I gotta say that the photos that I saw of this press conference, like, Corey looks so bummed.
I mean, yeah.
I don't have any. I have zero sympathy for him, but he looks so bummed, and it's so funny. And he did a not to get ahead of ourselves in the storytelling, but he did a great job in his last run in the 7 car, being one of the few cars to crash out Saturday night. So,
DFL, man.
Good job, bud. You did it. You did it.
Yeah, he did worse than poor Josh Bilicki out there in that fucking Arby's car, getting lapped every half lap.
It's a good looking ride.
It was
I was
a good
glad it was going
looking
so
car.
slow so I could get a good look at it every lap.
Little taste of ARCA in there. Yeah, so shout out to Josh Bilicki for having the longest Saturday night of anybody. I hope Dale Jr. saved him a Bud Light.
In more ride swapping news or whatever you want to call it, Rackley, the truck team, for the second year in a row, dropped their driver before the end of the season, with Ty Dillon stepping out of the ride, and it looks like Dawson Sutton, who I don't know who he is.
He's a Nashville like super late model guy. Like he races at the fairgrounds and around there. I don't know much about him, but I know that's the world he comes from, and that's where Rackley WAR, whatever the team is called, that's where they do a lot of late model racing, is at the fairgrounds. So I think he's just plugged in with their program, and I guess we'll see how that goes. Who knows? But yeah, Ty Dillon no longer in the car, and
he's still with
I could have
the
said
team
nothing and I wouldn't noticed, to be honest with you.
Yeah, really. And he's staying on with the team as a mentor role, which is very funny. And he's still rumored to be in the Kaulig Cup car next year, which, again, the guy can't even stay in a fucking truck ride a season. And maybe he's failing upward yet again. So I guess we'll see what happens. But he did say he was excited to announce his 2025 driving plan. So definitely Kaulig not racing for trophies with that car next year.
He'll be taking Corey LaJoie to Chili's to work every day in an Uber.
In unfortunate sponsor news, it looks like Joe Gibbs may be potentially losing another one of their longtime sponsors with FedEx. Obviously being tied with Denny Hamlin in the 11 car for the last, I don't know how many seasons, but it's been at least 15 years, probably longer now. I'm trying to think when Denny got in that car, 2006, 2007. So
it's been
almost 20 years we're looking at now. And it's not confirmed that they're totally dropping out, but it is mentioned that they're reducing their sponsorship even more.
It's fucking crazy, man.
So definitely a bummer anytime NASCAR loses a longtime sponsor like that, because there really aren't that many of them left at this point. Denny obviously probably won't have any trouble getting another sponsor on the car. He's had a few different ones this year.
He owns his own team too, so it's a pretty easy plug and play situation for him, I guess, if he wants to spend a few mil to buy himself a ride.
He'll be fine, I'm sure. I mean, he's still up there competing and whatnot. So, I mean, but we did also see the same problem with Kyle Busch, and that's why he's still not in the Joe Gibbs car. So, guess we'll see how that plays out. In other news, Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s dad has been reinstated into the NASCAR garage after his indefinite suspension for throwing some fists at the Wilkesboro All-Star race a few months ago. I don't think anybody really cares, but good for Stenhouse Sr., I guess.
NASCAR was doing whatever they could to bring some different news in after the debate over this race.
Yeah.
Let's bring Rick Sr. back in. Fuck it.
Yeah.
And then I guess the final news, which, Rob, as the IndyCar guy on the show, you'll have to spread a little more insight on this, but IndyCar is doing charters now. I did not really pay any attention to this news because I just don't really care, but yeah, what's the scoop?
Yeah, so 10 teams have agreed to a charter system in IndyCar. It's somewhat similar to NASCAR's. Basically, all the full-time cars for the 10 essentially full-time teams now have charters, which is, it's good and bad news depending on how you look at it. The one thing out of this that I think is noteworthy is the fact that the Indianapolis 500 is not included in the guaranteed start position deal with these, because it is a NASCAR. If you have a charter, you're going to start the race. It doesn't matter if you're dog shit slow or you're Kyle Larson at Bristol. It doesn't fucking matter. You're starting the race. That's how it is in IndyCar, with the exception of the 500. And I know that was a big piece of the puzzle when they were doing charter negotiations amongst the fan base and amongst the teams, was that that was sacrilegious. And fortunately, that race is big enough, and we're not going to see an IRL situation from the 90s where there are guaranteed starting spots for competitors. I think that's a good deal. But yeah, IndyCar is making some good moves right now. All their races are on regular TV next year. It's all on Big Fox. There's definitely some long-term solidified nature for all these teams now. If they happen to close up their doors for any reason, there's a little bit of return on investment, assuming more teams will come in. And it seems like the tide is kind of turning up for them. So that's a good deal for IndyCar right there. I think, again, obviously there's downsides to having a charter system as well, but I guess we'll see how it plays out. And as long as they don't touch the 500, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, IndyCar's had a weird season as far as getting a lot of negative press and all that. So hopefully for their sake, they start to turn things around next year, because I think a lot of the fan base and a lot of the drivers have been pretty pissed off about a lot of the things going on in the sport. And
yeah, the hybrid thing didn't turn out all that well, and there's been a few things here and there that people have been pissed off about. But again, next year seems to be a step in the right direction, at least with TV coverage. And now that all the teams that have put their money where their mouth is have a little bit more of a future ahead of them if they do choose to get out of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird way to say it.
Yeah.
A future if they choose to get out of the sport. They won't lose their damn shirts.
Well, it looks like that wraps up the news and notes. So that'll bring us back to Bristol.
Yeah, this is all I care about. I just want to hear y'all talk about drinking fucking Four Loko in the campground and hanging out.
Listen, there was only one of us. Yeah, only one of us was doing that. But did you get? When did we all get there? I mean, obviously, Kyle and I got there Friday. Ashley, did you get there Thursday or Friday?
I got there Thursday.
Okay, were you at the truck race?
I was at the truck race.
Okay, so
how about the ARCA race? Did you see that?
No, I skipped that. I'm sorry.
Damn. Ice cold.
So how was the truck race experience? I mean, I watched it and, it was fine. It was pretty boring for a truck race at Bristol, but talk about that.
I don't really have much to talk about the actual race. Me and my brother loaded up his 77 Dodge Tradesman Thursday morning and drove up there and went to Farmer Bob's campground, which is where we always camp. Thursday was going to be a very small crowd, just me and my brother, and then Josh Tate, who is Andy Newsome's lifelong best friend, and two other dudes from West Virginia, Dave and Justin. So met up with them. Me and my brother set up camp and cooked dinner, and those three wandered off to the truck race first, and I was going to meet up with them afterwards. So get to the truck race, and I could tell that those three were already drunk. I was like, okay, I'm not on that level yet. They're passing around some water bottle that's got brown liquid in it, and there's a can of Spam being passed around. It's just, dig your own finger in and eat what you want.
The spirit of Andy was there, even though he was over at Bulls Gap.
Yeah, we were waiting on him to show up later. The truck race itself was fine. I mean, we were all pulling for Raja. We were really hoping that he could get up there, but it really turned into the Lane Riggs show. Yeah. But it didn't get too ridiculous. There weren't a bunch of stupid cautions or restarts or anything. So.
I'm glad Andy wasn't there for that Lane Riggs.
Yeah, me too. It would have been ugly.
Oh yeah. And this time Lane didn't didn't pop his shoulder out of socket or anything celebrating. So good for him. You know, I don't have the same amount of animosity towards him that Andy does. So
Me either.
it's interesting to see him not make the playoffs and then win 2 straight races. So it means he's probably got a good shot to do well next year. But you know, he's in a front row truck, so you know, front row obviously has done pretty well the last couple years. So
yeah,
he's got some potential for sure.
Well, like I was saying last week, you go visit that shop and, you know, it feels pretty old school. It's not a big place. The space they work in is pretty small in comparison to, you know, some of the bigger teams, and they move some mountains out of there sometimes. And that truck program is really, really good. So yeah, again, I like lane rigs too. So I always like seeing the 38 win.
Yeah, I mean, I like that paint scheme. Don't love McDowell, so to see that paint scheme win with somebody I don't dislike too much is cool. All right, so
just looks better on a truck anyway.
It does look better on a truck, man.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, True Love, what happened after the race? I know there was a foam party. I know you're out there with Bob Pockris in the mist. What happened?
Well, so after the truck race, they always open up the track so that you can go down there and sign the start-finish line and take pictures and all that. So we start walking down the stairs to go wait in line to get out onto the track, and it's about this time that the boys stand up that I realize that they're all wasted, like real wasted. And Dave is kind of a stocky guy with a big ginger beard, and he's got this huge backpack cooler on, and he stands up and he just immediately starts swaying. I was like, oh boy, this man is not going to make it down these stairs. Well, he made it to the bottom, and then it just swaying. So my brother takes the cooler from him, and that kind of evens him out a little bit. We're like, all right, I think he might make it now. He's like not making real words. He's not having real thoughts. At this point, we're on the track, and I'm wondering how we're going to get him all the way back to Farmer Bob's. But we still got a foam party to go to. So we get him up the stairs and start walking towards the foam party. It's a pretty good walk. And we get maybe 50 feet from the foam party. And this man who could not walk or make words hangs a hard right and starts sprinting like Forrest Gump into the darkness. And none of us are about to start running and chasing him. So we're like, all right, Dave, you're on your own.
Godspeed.
So the rest of us go to the foam party. We didn't get in there too deep because everyone that was coming out of that foam was just soaked head to toe, and I'm not in the mood to be soaked head to toe. So I'm sorry to not find Bob Pockris.
That's the only disappointment I have from you this weekend is not seeing Bob on the phone. But
there was a guy dressed as Calnon Jr. in a full fire suit.
There always is.
I saw that guy walking around. Yeah.
Well, so we decided to start walking back to the campground, and we're like, all right, guys, along the way, let's kind of check the nooks and check the ditches, see if anyone sees Dave laying down there.
See how far you made it.
Yeah. Well, we make it all the way back to the campground, and we don't see him. And there's 2 golf carts sitting there next to our campsite, and Dave's sitting on the back of one of them. And the people that's driving the golf cart goes, you'll never believe who dropped your buddy off. And they're like, it was the cops. So apparently Dave made it all the way to the highway and then spotted a Bristol employee and like broke down and was like, I physically cannot walk any further. I'm just going to lay down right here. And
he made it to the highway?
Yeah.
That's
and
too
then the
far.
Bristol employee was like, I don't know what to do with you. So they got the cops over there, and they were friendly enough to just drive him to camp since he was so close.
That's really cool.
Well, yeah, that's a good story. Then that's fine.
That's a wholesome
So
story.
Dave went straight to bed, so that's good.
Yeah.
The rest of us went down at Farmer Bob's. There's like a group of RVs that always have a big karaoke party and like their own bar down there. So the rest of us went down to the karaoke party, waiting on Andy Newsome to show up from the dirt race that he was shooting that night. And so he shows up right after midnight. So by that time, it's officially his birthday. So that's when like a bunch of like mystery, sugary shots started getting poured, and
Ugh.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. But I mean, I definitely drank more than I intended to that first night, but
It's Andy's birthday.
Get the
fun.
weekend.
Yeah.
The weekend started on a good note. Start off hungover before the big race.
yeah. I woke up with a video on my phone of some guy that I don't know shouting into my camera, "Fuck Corey LaJoy." So there was that. So yeah, that was my Thursday.
So what time did you all get to the racetrack? I know Friday was your day, and I know you had a really beautiful house y'all were staying at a few miles away from the track, right?
Yeah. So I'll just say my part first because Kyle's got more to say about the Friday afternoon. I didn't get there till like about 6 almost. Like I was planning on being there like 4:35, but I drove straight down from Cleveland, leaving in the morning, and I caught like an hour of traffic due to construction in like the mountains of West Virginia. So that kind of fucked my plan up a little bit. So
Stopped at a few
late.
different Goodwills to take a piss.
No, that's the thing is I didn't. Like I knew I was kind of on a time crunch, so I didn't stop in any thrifts or anything on the way down. I just straight to the track. But Kyle was there early enough, and he has some stuff to talk about. So take it away, Kyle.
Yeah, you scared the hell out of me because I thought you were driving to the house.
No, no.
I got a text asking, do you have tickets for tonight? You're like, yeah, we do. We're here right now. Please do not drive to the house. No, it was insane. I mean, I work for Bass Pro. So it had to have been maybe 1 or 2 months ago I put in for these tickets, and I thought that I was just going to get, a single ticket for myself. I ended up getting like a whole group pass for the suite up there for Bass Pro. And yeah, we got there Friday, got to the house and got right to the track, and it was like basically instantaneous with all the hospitality and events that kind of popped off from the get-go. Yeah. We got into the suite. We were there maybe 15 minutes, and they told us, "Hey, Dale Jr. is going to be coming up." So I'm already, kind of freaking out, and I'm already there. I'm not even there a half hour, and I'm like, "Oh shit, okay. Well, we gotta prepare for this thing. Like, this isn't something that you spring on a guy like me. You just, you gotta let me know these things ahead of time." So it was pretty cool. Like, he came up and, he met every outfitter that works with Bass Pro and took the time to like take pictures and, sign autographs. And, the man was already busy enough as it was on Friday doing his stuff with the race, right, that, just taking a half hour out of his actual race day to come say hello to us really meant a lot. And then, yeah, we just kind of hung out and ate some free food. Thank you, Johnny Morris. There was we had waitresses and we had people taking care of us. And, I'm my kind of type. I'm not used to that stuff. So I'm just like, all right.
I was just going to say,
same.
I've never been to a race with a waitress before.
Yeah, I mean, not even getting into the fact that, we're watching the races from this suite and, we're inside watching a race and able to talk to each other and stuff. And then, there's brisket and sausages and free drinks and yeah, I mean, it was a very surreal experience because I don't know if I'll ever experience a race that way again. But I mean, I definitely was not complaining. It was just a little weird to be inside like that watching a race.
I can't imagine.
That's it.
It was the coolest, weirdest way to watch a race.
Yes,
Like,
that's definitely a good way to put it.
I felt like I didn't feel like, I felt like I wasn't my typical fan self where I'm down there, and I can't talk to anybody, but at the same time, I was having a great time as a fan, but I'm watching the race and then they got the race on TV above me. And I'm just like, you can't hear the cars. And it really took some time to get used to because when the race was going on, like I was silent because I'm just used to being silent. And then you're like, oh shit, like I can talk to people. That's, that's cool. And, it definitely took some getting used to. But it was a lot of fun on Friday.
We our suite, we didn't mention this. The suite was two suites over from the broadcast booth, so we could see those guys the whole time doing their thing.
Oh wow,
so that was weird.
You can see Jeff Burton pointing his finger every time.
He's a pointer.
Look at that.
We did now obviously Trula was there too, and she was sitting down in turn 3, and we did go down there at one point to say hi, but you guys were sitting so goddamn close to the track on Friday, we couldn't even say hi to you guys barely. So
it doesn't matter where you sit in there, you can't talk to anybody.
On Saturday wasn't as bad because I was sitting down with you and we were able to talk. We were a little bit farther up and it wasn't quite as loud, but Friday was rough. We pretty much just went down, said hi to True Love, and then went back up in the booth.
Yeah, you were supposed to bring me some rolls in your pockets, and you didn't do that. So thanks for nothing.
I forgot the rolls.
Yeah, Brian was also lying about
starving to death.
He's lying to us all about the amount of cocktail shrimp that was up there. He said there was none.
There were no fucking shrimp, man. Shrimp. I don't like shrimp. We've talked about this.
Not anymore because you ate too damn many of them.
Shrimp.
Yes, Kyle's on my side here. There was no goddamn shrimp.
I can confirm that there was no shrimp because I myself, I go hard on some shrimp cocktail, and there was no shrimp cocktail.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I believe you.
They were fancy, but not that fancy. Like like Brian said earlier, brisket and sausage, like straight to the point, and then you got your rolls, and then I had me some Diet Cokes, and that was good enough for me. But
brisket and sausage sounds very Bass Pro. So
it does, yeah.
Yeah.
It was
good.
I mean, all the love to the company, but it was definitely like a what's it called? It was like a sampler of all the Bass Pro seasonings and like sauces and all that good stuff. Because everything I was eating, I was like, I've tasted this before. Yep. I've actually demoed these sauces to other customers at my last store in Ohio. Like, this checks out. But I mean, it was great. I went around the whole time basically with my sunglasses on, looking like the Ray Charles of NASCAR, just smiling ear to ear, looking around. I was just in a daze after I met Dale Jr. that I just, there was a point where I blacked out. Like,
I believe it.
I was like, this is great. I'm having fun. And then all of a sudden the race was over and I was like, well, what happened?
Well, I was paying pretty close attention. I'm sure True Love was as well. And, I mean, the race itself Friday was pretty decent. I mean, it wasn't the best Bristol Xfinity race ever, but not the worst either. Junior started 13th, and right off the bat, he was having radio problems. And I had his radio tuned in the whole time, and it was definitely funny to hear him screaming on the radio,
Pure
fix my
comedy.
fucking earphones. And, talking about flipping off Riley Herbst and, where's my glasses and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, they talked about it on his podcast this week. And if you haven't listened to that, go listen to that because it's a great recap.
Didn't he
His radio's always the best.
Didn't he drop his radio into his drink holder? And he's like, well, the good news is I know where my radio's at, and I dropped it in the drink holder, but I don't know where the water bottle went.
He just was losing shit in his car. Which was pretty funny. Cole Custer ended up winning the thing,
Yes,
which
sir.
he started off like fucking hitting the wall and getting flat. And to be honest, like, he just looked loose all night. I mean, obviously he was fast, but he was a lot of times you'd watch him and he was just kind of all over the track. Junior had to work his way up through the field a couple times through all those pit stops. Thankfully, he never lost a lap, but he was still fast. And
Put on a damn show,
definitely,
that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Didn't have the issues that the cars on Saturday did as far as people being able to pass. I mean, yeah, passing there is tough, but Junior was able to work his way up to 7th. I think was his final position.
Yeah, he couldn't,
which is a shame.
Couldn't get past Truex. It was that thing in Bristol with, you get progressive banking and all that. You get alongside somebody and the top lane always prevails, and he just couldn't break the plane of that car.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is what it is, But yeah, I enjoyed the shit out of watching him come up there and
got to see yet another Sheldon Creed second place finish.
Forgot about that.
I thought I was maybe going to be his good luck charm, because there was a couple times in the last 20-30 laps he was making a little ground on Custer, but just could never really do it. And
you keep saying you're going to be his good luck charm.
Well, I bet on him every fucking week, and I was there for yet another second place finish. So
they ought to start putting odds on that on DraftKings for second place for Sheldon.
Yeah.
Sheldon
wish.
Creed and Corey LaJoy are the kings of consistency. I'll give it to him.
That is absolutely correct.
It's much different ends of the spectrum, though. Much different ends of the spectrum. Well, how about you, Trill? Have any notes from your neck of the woods?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to backpedal because my Friday started off much different than y'all's Friday.
Well, you didn't have a waitress down there in Farmer Bob's?
I had an Andy Newsome celebrating his, I think, 36th birthday or something.
God damn.
So, woke up. It was a pretty chill morning. I was going to head over to the track pretty early, but our big group was rolling in that day. So it was a bunch of people coming in from all over the place, kind of trickling in here and there. But Andy and his friends are the type who go really hard, really early in the day, and then kind of taper off as the day goes on. And I can't operate that way. And plus, with it being his birthday, he was on a whole other level. So by 1:30 that afternoon, Andy was creating a wizard sword, and he already had 4 peach twisted teas and 1 Bud Ice on it by 1:30.
My man.
Jesus.
Yeah. One of the first things that he said to me that day was, let me get his exact quote. He said, "Today marks 16 years since I stopped wearing underwear."
Oh yeah, I remember that quote now.
Yeah. So he's like shirtless. He's got his denim vest on. He had these like hard eyes sunglasses on, American flag bandana around his head, this ever-growing wizard staff of twisted teas. And someone takes a gender reveal cannon that is pink and shoots it straight in his face.
Was it actually for a gender reveal?
Well, that's what it was.
God
made
intended it
but-
for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a girl.
Yeah, it's a girl. Here.
Yeah. And he is carrying around a giant bottle of Everclear all day. So that was 2 p.m. and I left. I had to go to the track. Me and my brother had VIP passes, and he's never got to experience that before. So
that's cool.
I wanted to make sure I get over there early enough to see a little Xfinity practice and qualifying. But it was so hot down in the garage. There's just nowhere to hide from the sun. So we hung down there a little bit, did some laps, but by the time it was cup practice, we went up in the grandstands and sat in the shade. So
Probably a good call.
yeah, that was my Friday morning. But yeah, then I watched the Xfinity race. I also listened to Dale Jr.'s radio, which was quality entertainment. I didn't sit with Andy. I don't know where they were sitting. I was trying to find them, but I knew that they were past the point of functioning, because anytime I'd try to text or call any of them, they didn't know how to operate the phone. I was like, okay. At one point, though, Andy did come by us randomly out of nowhere, like a tornado, in his blonde mullet wig, and screamed a few words and then just kept on spinning right around the track. So
Oh my God, I love it.
yeah, so that was my Friday.
You go see Kid Rock?
Yeah, we did. We did.
Yeah.
We did see a little bit of the Kid Rock cover band Kid Kentucky, which Kyle, as we were walking down to where this was happening, Kyle was talking about wanting to hear all summer long, and that just happened to be playing as we walked down there. But I only stuck around for 2 or 3 songs because I didn't want to hear. He wasn't even playing Kid Rock songs. He played.
No, yeah.
He played. I heard "Give Me Some Lovin'," which is that one song from Days of Thunder. And then a couple other covers that were just shitty classic rock covers. I just wanted to hear Ball with the Bar or American Badass or something.
Yeah,
he did
same.
a wardrobe change though in the couple songs that I saw. But we had an hour drive, so after a couple songs.
Oh, that's right. You guys are kind of far away, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, we stayed at this Airbnb or Verbo house in North Carolina. That Jesus Christ, the drive to get to this place. So. I mean,
talk about a hike.
It was crazy driving up this mountain. There were so many twists and turns and 180-degree turns, and it was definitely fun driving for most of it, because at least at night, you can see oncoming cars with the headlights. So I was kind of all over the road, because it was super fun. I just made me wish I still had my WRX, because it would have been so fun to drive that thing on that road. But somehow I ended up beating Kyle back to the house. I don't know how I did that, because I stayed for a couple Kid Rock songs. Guessing it was just quicker for me to get out than those guys did. But only by 2 minutes, not even. Literally, I parked and then they were right behind me. So.
No, yeah, I'm driving up the whole time, and I'm like, I think that's Brian behind us. I think that's Brian behind us. I think, no, I would, very wrong.
Were y'all staying in Black Mountain? In that area?
Beach Mountain.
Beach Mountain, okay. Yeah, that's kind of similar, I guess. Those roads are so fun, man.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Not fun in a truck.
No, I burnt the shit out of the brakes in a Kia Soul up that thing once, so yeah.
Oh, dude, my brakes were fucking, you could smell them as I got out of the car.
Did y'all know that Kia Souls have a sport mode?
Oh.
That's something, yeah.
Yeah, no.
A little surprise from Budget Rental Car. Anyway, continue.
Good for Kia.
So, is there any other Friday night stories after the Kid Rock show that you want to talk about before we get on to Saturday?
Maybe just briefly. I will say that during Kid Kentucky, I was turned towards Brian, talking to him, when I noticed behind him, standing, enjoying the show, was Tim Duggar.
We had to sit through Tim Duggar songs on Saturday. God damn it! He did a Tom Petty cover. I was so mad. And I was just
Tom Petty.
I mean, I like Tom Petty, but not when he's fucking doing it. He did Mary Jane, which is such a weird song to do. And also another Tim Duggar note. I was listening to Junior's podcast, and apparently Tim couldn't walk down the banking at the track and had to take his boots off to do it, which I thought was very funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, fuck Tim Duggar. God damn it.
Yeah, after the Kid Rock, I just went back to camp, and as soon as I walked up to camp, Andy was on, he was driving a golf cart. I don't know where he got it from, whose it was, but it was a much bigger crowd that night, and lots of karaoke. Andy gave a couple birthday speeches, and then by the end of the night, I found him laying on the ground shirtless outside. So
Nice.
That was my Friday.
Did you sing anything, True Love?
I did not.
I will say I thought it was interesting how, and I can't say I've really been to too many NASCAR weekends where I was at both Friday and Saturday races. Everything was open after the Xfinity race. All the merch tents and everybody was just kind of hanging out. I thought that was very interesting. Nobody like usually at a race and everybody just leaves right after, even if it's a weekend type deal. But people were just kind of milling around and still hanging out and partying and stuff. So
They probably sell a shit ton of Fanatics T-shirts to people who had way too much to drink.
Oh,
that's
gosh.
fair. Well, I'm talking about even like the gypsy tents out front. They were all still open.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
like
yeah.
kind of slowly making my way to the car, checking out stuff. But
That's cool.
so yeah, I guess that leads us into Saturday and
The big Tim Duggar concert.
yeah. So we
That's why we were there. We were there for Tim Duggar. That was it.
Yeah, that was why. So I know on Friday they told us that Gregson, Truex, and Austin Dillon would all be making appearances at the suite
All your favorites.
in the afternoon. All my favorites, yeah. But we got there probably right around 3 o'clock. Like we had Kyle had to get all his passes and stuff, and his mom got us a handicap spot. I think we just missed Gregson because I saw him walk into the elevator. Speaking of elevators, yeah, go ahead. He made his appearance. Speaking of elevators, we didn't even mention this fact.
Oh gosh.
On Friday, so we went down to go. We went to go see True Love during the race, and we get in the elevator, and right behind us walks Mike Helton, of all people.
Oh.
Which
Is that who you gave all my shrimps to?
Yeah, gave them all to him.
He opened his bag and he's like, here's 10 for you, boss. Thanks for the work.
I was just kind of stunned because. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying I about grazed his crotch just trying to hit the button on the elevator, and I didn't realize who I was even around.
I didn't even know what to say. I kind of just said like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Helton, how's it going?" And he just said hello and asked us who we were pulling for and whatnot. So that was nice enough. And then I can't remember his fucking name, but the main announcer for PRN on Friday, we were in the elevator with him after the race.
Doug Rice?
Yeah, and he was showing us the track gave him a little mini sword as a retirement present. And
Oh, that's
he
cool.
he was making some jokes and stuff. So that was a fun little elevator trip. But so Saturday we just missed Gregson, but we got in the booth and everybody's in there, and Truex walks in. And he wasn't doing any sort of meet and greet type deal. He was just there to do a Q&A. And we all know Truex. He's not the most open personality in NASCAR, and it wasn't the most lively Q&A of all time. But I will say this: so I joked to group chat. It's like, I don't have nothing to fucking say to Truex. Like, what I'm going to ask him, how's Sherry doing? And then as the Q&A starts, there's an older woman in there, and she goes, "So how's your lovely wife doing?" And I just internally gasped. I was like, "You got to be fucking kidding me!"
You and everyone else, I imagine. Holy shit!
So he just quickly responded with, "I ain't married. You guys know me better than that." So that pretty much shut that down right away. I just
on the floor, man.
I could not believe that.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Holy
Do
shit.
your research. Like, please just Google
Yes.
them, man, before you ask anything. Just Google. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, Meemaw, not True Love, of course, but this other Meemaw. She was so proud of that question, asking something nice.
Yeah.
That's as bad as somebody asking if Bloomquist was signing at Eldora.
Yeah, really. I will say that I saw her later talking to, I think, Johnny Morris. So I think I don't know how much of a NASCAR fan she really was. She probably was just there as some sort of corporate thing. But
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, after Truex, not too long after that, Austin Dillon came in. And for all the shit we talk about Austin, I will say this, like, he was way more engaging with fans, both as far as answering questions. Now, he did talk about, like, there was one guy who was bitching about Denny bitching, and they were talking about the appeal and all that. And Austin said that they had showed NASCAR the footage of Dale and Terry at Bristol. I don't know if it was 95 or 97 or whatever year they showed him, but that was part of their way to appeal.
Oh.
It's like, nah, dude, like that wasn't even.
No
both
wonder
of
it didn't
those wrecks-
fucking work.
Yeah, both of those wrecks.
deserve another penalty just for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where were you, Kyle? Did you leave during this? Because I don't remember you being up there for that.
I just took off and went down onto the track because I said, I'm going to go take my little nomad lap around the place. And I just went and did my little, I did my
That's
Kyle
right.
thing where I just look around and go, "Ooh, that's badass. That's cool. Look at that." You know,
You were just so aghast at that question that woman asked Martin Truex. He had to get the hell out of there.
basically, man, like, oh, dude. I was right behind her, and I was just like, "You dumbass, you dumb." And it took everything in me to just not be like, idiot. But I kept it together. It was good. I was well behaved for the weekend. I will give myself credit.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I was up there for the Austin stuff, and like I said, I'll give him credit. He was very engaging and very nice to everybody. And I even got myself a photo with him because I was like, I gotta do it for the show. So
He's an affable guy.
yeah, so that was that. But then afterwards, it was not announced that Richard Childers was going to be coming up there, and it was also not announced that it was his birthday that day, and we were going to be singing "Happy Birthday" to him. So I took part in that. Some "Happy Birthday" to Pop Pop about 3 feet away from Johnny Morris. So again, another incredibly surreal experience from the weekend, being part of that.
Dude, I was gone maybe a half hour, 45. I wasn't even gone an hour, and I came back up, and there was cake, there was Johnny Morris up there. Like it looked like there had been a whole like party that had gone on in the 45 minutes that I was gone. I was like, what the hell even happened up here?
Yeah, we had just missed each other because after singing "Happy Birthday" is when I went down to hang out with Ashley and Josh and Andy and whatnot, and I saw my friend Harris down there too.
Nice.
I got since the weekend was very low budget for me, other than paying for the Airbnb. I finally splurged and got this Brad Keselowski King's Hawaiian hat I've been eyeing up all season.
Hell yeah.
That was my only purchase of the weekend. But I also got my
cursed
Zins.
Brad this weekend, is what you're telling me?
I guess I cursed Brad. I mean, listen, I was there for his one win, so it is what it is. But I got my Zins, and also while I was waiting to meet up with True Love and them, I went and got. I thought it was free, but I ended up paying $6 for it. The Sugarland Shine had some tasting booth, and I had like 5 half shots of this shitty liquor. So that was. I will say the Eggo flavor was probably my favorite, which I never thought I would say, but it was pretty decent.
That's new.
They have an Eggo moonshine.
Yeah, Eggo flavored moonshine. It kind of tastes like waffles or like pancakes or whatever. But
Didn't
it
they
was
sponsor
decent.
Stenhouse at one point?
They sponsored a bunch of stuff. I think one of the Talladega races was sponsored, but they make High Rock too.
Oh, I mean, like specifically the Eggo.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they were on somebody's car at some point, and the booth between us and the announce booth the suite was the Sugarland suite, so they were heavily involved in the race weekend. For sure.
My band used to play at Sugarland's a good amount back in the day, and boy, I would black out in there every single time. I just go on moonshine tour after moonshine tour with all the other Pigeon Forge tourists, and by the end of the night it was over. But it gives you a headache.
Sugarland people were more into watching the Tennessee football game than anything else.
Yeah, they were definitely. There was some dickhead in a full like checkered white and orange overall setup in the booth next to us, and they were all like half the people in the Sugarlands booth were just wearing Tennessee shit and watching the football game. So that gives you an idea of what goes on in some of these corporate suites,
Well, while y'all were busy singing "Happy Birthday" to Pop Pop, I was over in a cow pasture at Farmer Bob's watching Andy Newsome chug a world record amount of Yoo-Hoos. So,
oh God, man!
How many?
I don't know, but every time I looked at him, he was pouring himself a new one. It was just Yoo-Hoo after Yoo-Hoo.
How is he even like functional on Sunday? How did he even leave the track? Like I would just all the shit you've said he's drank before the race even started would put me in the hospital, I think.
He just clicks his heels and disappears on back to Virginia.
Some are born with it, man.
Some are
just born with it.
He is born with it.
Good Lord.
Our morning started off pretty calm compared to Friday morning. We had Andy and his Yoo-Hoos. I think I spotted Josh Davis with a hard Mountain Dew at one point.
Sounds right.
And they were their buddy Ross was there, and Ross introduced everyone to beanbacks, which is where you take a shot of liquor and then chase it with a spoonful of baked beans.
Oh, I'm gonna throw up.
That actually.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is
something
going
to
to mask
that.
the liquor. So
Yeah.
Well, that's going to give you protein and keep you strong. That's something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
There was
try
also,
that.
I think I sent y'all a picture, but there was a elderly gentleman there who they called Uncle Sid, who brought his own wooden sitting chair that looks like it's from the early 1900s that he takes to all the races because he said it sits good. So
Can't beat a good chair.
can't beat a good chair, but we
It's
got a
so
nice.
good.
He said it sits good. We got us a nice group picture. I think there was like 18 of us in total.
That's awesome.
And then that's when I went to go meet Brian in the fan zone.
I mean, that's one thing I love about the campground experience is that age is kind of not a thing in a lot of groups.
Yeah.
Like there's generations hanging out, and sometimes they aren't even blood related. There's just old guys hanging with young guys, and it's just everyone's there for the same reason, and it's to be a shithead and hang out in the field and go watch some stock cars, and I just love that shit so much. You don't find that too often.
Yep. But in saying all that, so we got the guest of honor here. Part of this whole deal this weekend was, Kyle got us these passes, and he was going to be what I thought the guy to give the start your engines command, but that was a little different. So Kyle, let's talk about that. Like, what was that whole experience like?
I totally thought that I was too, but God bless Johnny Morris because he gave me a little group of people to go ahead and do that with me, so I didn't pass out in front of millions of people. Because I will admit my knees were buckling.
Did you practice?
Dude, I was in a mirror with my hairbrush and all that, just like practicing on my own. I got a whole little badass thing that I figured out, and then obviously I couldn't do that. And it feels good to openly admit that I practiced that in front of a mirror with the hairbrush.
Yeah.
As you should.
But
Yeah.
it was all the veteran outfitters with Bass Pro. Because that's a big thing with Johnny Morris is, supporting the military and doing whatever he can to support the vets and not only just work for the company, but, nationwide. But they did a lot for us. I woke up Saturday morning to a little text saying, Bristol has invited you to these VIP passes. And, that's something I've never had a hand in with going to NASCAR races or whatever. So I got it all figured out and filled out the form and was like, well, I guess I have these things. And, went to the credential area, and then they sent me around to 3 different places. That was a whole other story. But they were up in the suites, and I got the VIP passes. And then when they gave them to me, they told me that I was going to go up on Austin Dillon's pit box for laps 450 to 500, but before that, they were going to take us all down there to specifically watch the Tim Duggar concert. Now,
Nothing comes for free, my man.
mind you, I do not care about the Tim Duggar concert. I was A-okay. All the other guys at Bass Pro were like, this is awesome, this is great. And I'm like, okay, this is your first time, bud. Awesome. Glad that you're here. So I got this VIP pass, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing in here? So I just walk up to this gate, and I just kind of open it, and a cop is looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, oh shit, this is a cop. But then I realized, oh wait, you're allowed to be here. So I flashed the little VIP thing, and he's like, oh, come on in. So I just moseyed on in there. And the funny thing was all the other Bass Pro guys saw me sneak through the fence and go. I didn't even sneak in. That was the thing. I felt so cool because I was like, I'm doing something illegal. No, I wasn't doing anything illegal. But they all realized that they could go in too. So it was kind of funny that we were all brought down there to watch Tim Duggar, and then everyone realized one after the other. We don't have to be stuck in this little sardine area with the DJ and Tim Duggar. We can actually go look at all the cool shit. So that was really cool. And I spent most of the time walking around. I went over to Chase's pit box and just sat there and looked at it and went this is badass. You know, that's my thing. Everywhere I go, I'm like, that's badass. That's cool. You know,
Yep.
doing my little rounds. And luckily I paid attention to time because I realized that the sun was going down, and then all of the Bass Pro vests that were there were suddenly gone. And I was like, oh no, this isn't good. So I'm running around the infield just trying to find somebody with the Bass Pro vest on, and I see nobody there. I'm like, oh, great. I've missed it. And I'm running around, and some lady stops me and she's like, where are you going? And I was like, I don't know where my bass people are. And she's like, what? I'm like, my bass? Oh, wait. Oh, let me explain this to you. I am with Bass Pro, you know, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, they're already gone. And my heart just sank. I was like, oh, shit. Well, this is what you get, man. You go off and do your own thing, and then, you know, it screws you over. But
You just say what's in bugger.
Yep.
yeah, you know, you try to get away and go do your own thing, and, you know, it ends up biting you. But, you know, I ended up finding them. They were all tucked away in this little area because they were all walking, like, the chauffeurs or whatever we had. I don't know what to call them. The, like, wrangling crew, whatever. Like, I don't know who they are. But they were walking around with these Bass Pro little paddles on, like, above the air. And it was literally like a teacher at, you know, a second grade
Right.
field trip. And you're like, oh, okay, there's my people, you know, because I was also that kid in school, so I figured out, you know, what I had to do. But got all lined up there, and they filed us in between where all the ROTC people were doing the flags and where all the kids were singing the national anthem. And I'm just trying to stay in my own little bubble and not be in the way. And then I got cameras coming by, and, you know, I was literally having overload going on in my brain because I didn't know what to do or how to process it.
Right.
And finally the command time came around, and they just told us to stand in one spot. So I just plopped myself in one spot, stood there, and Johnny Morse stands right in front of me. And I'm like, oh, cool. All right. So we're definitely going to be on TV. And mind you, the picture of me, I am smiling. I look all happy and all that. But, dude, my back was wet. Like, dripping. Like, I'm sitting there, like, fiddling with my face. And, like, I watched it on video. And I was like, dude, you look normal, but you're panicking on the inside. But no, it was really cool. It's one of those things that, you know, you watch it all the time, especially like as a kid, and you're like, that'd be so cool to do.
Right.
And just to have that like opportunity was pretty special, because I knew it was either doing that or it was like waving the green flag, because I had to write a whole essay about why I liked NASCAR to get these tickets. And most people wrote like a paragraph, but I wrote like some, you know, 7 to 10 paragraph MLA formatted essay to be like, I love NASCAR so much. This is great. This is why. Let me start from when I was 5 years old in my dad's trailer. Like, you know, a bunch of shit that they didn't even need to know about. But I didn't get the green flag, which it went to a lady that had been working with the company for, you know, 40 plus years, which, you know, good on her. She deserves that.
Yeah, right.
You know, give her her flowers. But just being able to do that was insane, man. Like, what day is today? What, Wednesday? Yeah, I still haven't been able to fully process everything that went on. And yeah, being down there for the whole thing put it all into perspective. Like, this is why I love this sport.
Yeah.
And then we got the race that we got, but we don't got to worry about that part, you know.
They can't all be bangers.
I was at the 600, and I had the best weekend before the 600, or actually, I'm sorry, the Coke 300, but I had the best time that week, and then that was like one of the worst races of the season. And then I had the best time before Bristol, and then that race was what it was. So I feel like I'm the only person that hasn't bitched about two of, you know, potentially the most, not boring, but, you know, controversial races, I guess, of the season.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like we had this crazy experience. I mean, you had obviously much crazier experience than we did, but I mean, you know, I still had this experience. I've never had it at a track, and obviously True Love had a ton of fun also. But yeah, I mean, might as well get into the actual race itself. I mean, it's Wednesday now. Everybody's already talked about this race for 4 fucking days, and yeah, I mean, it was.
Let me go ahead and say what I did right before the race, and then y'all can talk about the race. Just get it over with. So, just quickly, I had a VIP pass too, and I got one for my brother. And like I said earlier, this is my first time being able to, you know, give that gift to my brother and let him experience it. And you know, we both have been NASCAR fans our entire lives, so. Since we didn't get to take much advantage of it on Friday because it was so hot, I was like, I want to make sure that he gets like as much of an experience as possible today before the race.
Right.
So going into the garage, we didn't go through the tunnel. I got to take him like walking down the track with all the drivers, and like when he realized that that's what we were gonna do, I like saw his eyes light up. And had this moment where I could like see my little tiny baby brother who was like a diehard Dale Earnhardt fan, and like he was like, "Oh, what? We get to walk down the track?" And it was like this. I was like, "Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry." So that was special. And then like I've experienced this multiple times, which I'm very grateful and fortunate for. But to like see him get to see Jeff Gordon for the first time in person, and Rick Hendrick and Richard Petty, like how excited he got every time was great. But
yeah, I mean, you forget they're real people, you know, you forget this is a real thing sometimes.
Yeah, we did run into Kyle for a little bit while he was wandering around lost from his Bass Pro group, so it was nice to talk to him for a minute. And then they opened up the grid so we could go get closer to the cars and check those out. And we picked us out a nice spot to stand before, or while they were doing driver intros, so that we could be standing right next to Chase's car during the anthem. So got to stand right next to Chase. He was standing there with his mom, and he was talking to Rick Hendrick for a while, and Jeff Gordon was standing there with him talking for a while, and then Bubba was set up right next to them, so I got to watch like Bubba and Jeff Gordon joke around for a long time. And then on the other side of Chase was Corey LaJoy, so I had a
Did you get your picture made?
not with him, but they did bring out his entire pit crew to stand around the car to get one final group picture of the 7 team. Yeah. So I think that's all for my pre-race, but I
did the crew
down
members
there
in that go and thank God?
It looked like they couldn't wait to get out of there.
They had their own little prayer circle once he climbed in. Yeah.
Yeah, but stood down there and watched Kyle give the command up on the big screen. So
nice. I was while y'all were doing that, I was trying to speed home from rehearsal. My band is we're working on Charlie Marie's new record right now. We were doing some recording over the weekend, and of course it ran late every single night. And I was trying to haul ass in time to get back to see this command, because I knew Kyle was coming on the show, so I wanted to watch that. I didn't get to see it. I did hear it on PRM, and the audio was kind of weird, and I was a little disappointed to find that it was a bunch of people, but you know. You did a good job. I'm proud of you. I love the anthem. It was good.
Yeah, did you scream directly into Johnny's ear since you were standing beside him?
I think I did. Because then, like, when the camera cut off, what the camera didn't get, luckily, was me going, woo! And then I literally, right after it, like, cut off, I was like, I fucking love this sport! And I'm just screaming at some old dude that I, like, was in the company, and he's just like, yeah, man, cool.
Man,
and I just ran off on my own.
What a cool experience, man. I can't even imagine.
Well, that pretty much ends the cool experiences for the night, because then the race started.
I enjoyed the hell out of it. I don't know about y'all, but
Listen, well, yeah, of course you fucking enjoyed it, but I mean, it wasn't. Bowman led the first 30, 40 laps, and then Larson got it, and that's pretty much all she wrote. I mean, it was cars couldn't pass, nobody could do anything.
it's pretty standard short track race for the Cup Series these days, which is unfortunate. Especially with that many people being packed into Bristol. They said there was like over 100,000 there, which is the biggest number they've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was kind of nobody really knew what was going to happen with the tires. I mean, it would have been great if we got a repeat of the spring race, but nobody really expected that. But we didn't even get that. We didn't even get a fraction of that. Like, there was hardly any tire fall off. It was very much just following cars around all night. Guys. Like they talked about Truex and Gibbs, who had good track position and lost it and couldn't get it back. At one point I did walk down for the second stage, and I watched the second stage at True Love, which was cool. I mean, it was nice to get to have that experience too and get to watch from a normal seat and the sights and sounds.
I'm really
and all
glad that me and Brian got to be at the same race together to experience Corey LaJoie's final ride in the 7, because I feel like we had a part in getting him fired from that. That's what I'm telling myself, at least.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, the nice thing about Bristol is, for those who haven't been, I mean, there's really not a bad seat in the house there. I mean, even from where we were on Saturday, so you could see everything, and didn't even have like the most amazing seats in the world. So it's hard to say, like, get to Bristol now with the racing how it is, but I mean, it is still an amazing facility, and it was cool to be a part of that and see that, because the only other time I'd been there was the dirt race that Ash and I went to a couple of years ago, and I always wanted to go to a real race there. So it's nice to check that off the list, but unless Kyle gets this opportunity again, I don't know if I'll be going back until they get the short track shit figured out, because I've definitely not the best race I've ever been to. I'll say that. The experience itself was great, and definitely I was taking a little more advantage of the free drinks on Saturday night than I was Friday, because I knew I wasn't driving. But
what the fuck else are you gonna do?
I mean, that's
450 laps of that 5 car running all the way up front.
Yeah.
But, I mean, look, I've been there before. I went to the first Martinsville race with the next gen car, and that was about as big of a stinker as you could imagine. Kind of the same deal. Martinsville's a special place, but after about 250 laps of William Byron, I was all set. But no offense to William, but it's just I've been there before. So, but I'll say this from home. I mean, the broadcast did what they could with it. I got to hear it on both PRN and on television. I did get home in time to kind of watch the last stage and a half. The thing that pissed me off the most was since once Kyle locked into the playoffs, because for me it was a pretty engaging race up until that point, because I'm used to the current Kyle Larson, who seems to find the wall or have something go wrong, or he just makes a stupid mistake or some shit happens, and he's kind of not on the cut line necessarily for the playoffs, but he's a little closer than I think a lot of folks would want him to be. Yeah. So for me, it was like, God, when's it going to happen? Who's it going to be? What's he going to do? He's ripping the fucking fence. Why is he doing that? And then once he locked in, it kind of turned into a normal affair, and I started doing other shit. I baked some cookies. I was just kind of doing errands around the house, whatever. And I come back in, and I see Daniel Suarez and Ty Gibbs on television. And I'm like, oh shit, that's the cutoff battle. And they had the point situation displayed on TV, and I was like, oh, this is good shit. This is good. They're just going after it, lap after lap. They can't get by him. I had no idea that Daniel Suarez was 3 laps down, and they just wasted 30 minutes of my time. And finally they said, hey, just remember, Daniel Suarez he's 3 laps down right now. This is not for position. And I was like, motherfucker.
I was really sitting there with my brother, who is a Suarez fan, and my friend Buddy came up, who's also a Suarez fan for a little bit.
Yep.
And it was very bizarre. I mean, we were invested in that that playoff battle, but to watch Suarez battling from dead last, and it's like, how is he beating Truex, who just like slipped up and got a speeding penalty? It was a very close battle, and I kind of felt bad for Truex, like,
Oh yeah.
making this one mistake, and now he's going against the guy who can't get out of 35th position.
Yeah, but there's no chance he'll get out of there. He's locked into 35th. But yeah, again, sigh of relief when Larson won and locked into the playoffs for me. Obviously not for anybody else on the show, I don't
Not
think.
for me,
but
nope.
yeah, I mean, hey, Chase Elliott had a great run. Bubba got his way up to third. Bubba was one of the only guys who could also get around cars. I think it had something to do with the fact that everybody else was kind of saving tires because they weren't sure when they were going to go, and Bubba just said fuck it and went for it, and he managed to get up to third. And yeah, I don't know. This is probably an unpopular opinion, and this is putting my fandom aside. It's probably not the worst next-gen short track race we've seen, I don't think, but just another one in the list. You know, it certainly doesn't help the case for this current state of short track racing in the Cup Series, and that's a damn shame.
I think in Gluck's poll, it officially became the second worst race of all time. Second to the Martinsville race that you went to, Rob.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we all got to experience number 1 and 2 on the fucking popularity
Until
contest
then, it
list.
was the North Wilkesboro race that me and Brian went to.
It was definitely voted as
maybe don't come to Eldora then. Jesus.
It was voted as the worst Bristol race for sure, and Junior
and the worst Kyle Larson win.
Whatever. I got nothing.
Just based off the poll.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Although we should get into this now. Speaking of which, because we didn't talk about it earlier, so Kyle actually kind of clapped back a little bit at the fans on Twitter about this. Not so much the fact that it was him. And this will also kind of tie in our dart for the week later on. But he kind of made the point that, if there was, and it didn't even make it out to if it was him leading, like if whether it be him or somebody else dominated the race, but if there was an overtime or late stage caution and the leader got wrecked out, the fans would have voted differently.
Oh, yeah.
I can kind of understand where he's coming from with that, because there is some recency bias, and you look at some of the other races that did really well this year, and maybe if you look at the entire race, they weren't that great, but the finishes were good. That can kind of change fans' opinions. But in saying that, I mean, again, it's not at all a negative statement on what Kyle did. It's more just the fact that it was not just him dominating, was the fact that nobody could fucking do anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Chris Gabehart said a similar thing, Denny Hamlin's crew chief, that this is kind of what you get with this car right now. With the combination of the aero and the particular tires that Goodyear bringing, even take the tires out of the equation. This is just what Bristol and a lot of short track racing is like right now with this particular car and the way that they're bringing it to the racetrack. And there's really not a whole lot they can do without extremely radical changes, which I don't think NASCAR has any interest in doing. So
yeah, it's tough because from Denny's podcast, he was talking about the tires, and you can't put too much blame on Goodyear because they've made a lot of changes this year. Although he did bring up the point that
probably bringing the wrong tires altogether last time and just kind of letting that one slip to the cracks.
The other thing the other point Denny made about the tires on his podcast was, he's like, we visited Goodyear facilities both that made consumer tires and made the race tires, and it's like night and day comparing the facilities as far as how the tires are made and how
quality control.
Yeah, quality control and all that stuff. So that was interesting to hear. And then, you go to listen to Junior's podcast, and he was a bit more.
Your dog into the cough drop?
Yeah, my dog is coughing again. Sorry.
Someone, I know, who was it that has a drinking game out of this? Anytime Brian's dog coughs,
yeah, Bailey. My friend Bailey that was camping with us was like, yeah, it's turned into a drinking game of every time Brian unplugs his microphone or the dog needs to bark.
Bottoms up, pal.
Poor old dog getting shit on. But no, Junior is way more doom and gloom about it, saying, if they don't fix this fucking car, this could be the death of short track racing as we know it for the most part. And I understand where he's coming from too. And it's like, NASCAR tried taking off the diffusers and they tried taking off the underbody stuff, and it supposedly didn't really make too many changes. And it's like, well, I guess the next thing is putting the horsepower back in the cars, and maybe that won't make changes, but who knows until they actually try it. Or maybe putting a narrower tire on the car that's going to wear harder.
Or grooving them, yeah. I'm not an expert at any of that shit, but
no, none of us are. I mean, it's just kind of like it just sucks as a fan perspective because, again, nobody's expecting these crazy races where there's 200 passes and we're not expecting a fucking Atlanta finish every time. We want to see at least a little more action. Again, I'm also not a guy who wants to see 20 cautions in a race, but if guys aren't even near each other, they can't bump and bang and they can't have any cautions. That's what we saw. I mean, there's only like Logano spun out, LaJoy spun out, and that was pretty much it as far as quote unquote natural cautions. But
I don't know if you guys follow Auto Racing Analytics on Twitter, but that's a great follow, and this account always does a scoring loop analysis for the final stage.
Go ahead.
And Kyle Larson is all by himself on the front stretch, and literally the rest of the field is clumped up in turn 4. So Larson was the only one that had any additional speed or any sort of advantage over anyone else on that last run. Everyone else was kind of running around at the same speed. So yeah, it doesn't bode well. And that's exactly the same thing we see at Richmond. We see it at Martinsville. All the other short tracks. It's a common deal. And yeah, I don't know what they can do to fix it, but I gotta say I agree with Junior. You can only put so many of these things on and keep the fans showing up and keep them tuning in if it's just going to be what we saw on Saturday night. As much as I enjoyed it, for everybody else, that was definitely probably a nice nap around 9:30. Mm-hmm. But I will say this for you guys at the racetrack, I'm sure there is such a thing as a bad time at the racetrack, but I'd rather see a bad race than no race at all in person, get my hair blown back and drink some beers and eat some,
for sure. I mean,
eat some bologna out of a can, and yeah, exactly. But
yeah, I mean, I definitely do not regret for a second making the trip down. But as far as like I said earlier, like wanting to make another trip out of this, like knowing what we're in for, I mean, it's tough to want that,
Yeah, no, it's completely fair.
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of the consensus when I got back to camp. Was everyone was like, yeah, we might skip next year, which is unfortunate, but...
Well, who said it? It was like getting socks on Christmas. Was that what Jordan Bianchi said?
Yeah.
He doesn't wear socks.
You wait around for a whole year, and then you get that one little glimmer of hope from spring, and you're like, yes, it's going to happen. Yes, we're going to get it. Yes, it's going to be like, early 2000s Bristol, a night race all over again, and then you get that, and you're like, well, shit. Okay.
Yeah. But, I mean, I didn't go in expecting like a full-blown spring race again, but I was expecting something.
Yeah.
It's just the evolution of everything right now that we as fans got to just kind of take on the chin every so often.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's definitely true.
But yeah, so after that race, I went back to camp. The first thing I walked up on was Andy Newsome stomping out a fully lit roll of paper towels that he'd caught on fire. I don't know what was going on there. Our buddy Josh Davis called me telling me that he needed me to send him the location of the campground because he accidentally walked the complete opposite direction and was 40 minutes away.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
That night it was pretty calm. There was a random hoverboard thing that showed up that Andy was riding around in some cowboy hat that he found from somewhere. I don't know. But my favorite part of this is I feel like we all went to bed at a reasonable hour, but I woke up it was probably around 2:30 that morning, and I had to pee, and I was like, okay, well, let me go out to climb out of this tent and go out here to this porta potty, and I climb out and it's quiet. I was like, okay, I guess everyone else went to bed too already, and I walk over to this porta potty, that I will say this campground provides porta potties, but there was one at our campsite for 16 dudes and myself. So day one, it's fine, but come Saturday, that thing becomes pretty unbearable.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's 2:30 in the morning. I'm stumbling out of my tent to go pee, and I pull on the door handle, and it's unlocked. And I open it up, and there's Andy Newsome standing in the doorway facing me. And he's a big man, and he's tall, so he takes up the entirety of this door frame. And he just looks at me, and he goes, "Don't go in there, true love." I was like, okay. He's like, "I just took a shit, and it smells so bad in here that I just projectile vomited everywhere." I was like, okay.
The Yoohoo curse.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, that explains some of it.
Yeah, I was like, all right, well, I'm not going in there. So I walked one much further away. But that next morning, I just kind of sat back and watched people walk up to that porta potty and look in there, and just like their faces leaving it. They were changed people.
One little last Sunday morning gift from Bristol.
Yeah.
Woodstock 99 in a porta potty.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's
All right. Well, any final notes from our guest of honor, Kyle, as we wrap up and move on to DARFs and septic tanks and all that?
Honestly, no. I think I covered pretty much the whole thing. I mean, my most common phrase of the weekend was, "I'm just happy to be here." So
Yeah.
that was my thing. The race was what it was, but for me, I had a pretty badass time, and I look forward to more of them in the future. So that's really about it.
For sure. I mean, I can't thank you enough for inviting me along and getting to join you. I mean, it was a great time hanging out and getting to experience all that stuff, and definitely glad I'll be invited to other ones in the future. So I'll definitely be taking up on those when they happen.
Oh, for sure. I mean, hopefully I become a plug at some point, but we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, well,
Cool.
I'm glad you all made it out safe. And again, incredible FOMO from my couch this weekend. I've spent some time at the racetrack recently, and now I'm back at home while everyone else is still having a good time, and it hurts my soul. So I got to make sure I come see all y'all at some point in the next year at a racetrack.
Yeah,
we all haven't been
figure
in the same
something
place at the same time yet, which is bullshit. So
Yeah.
we'll change it.
Well, I'll be at Martinsville this year, so there's that. So
Nice.
Well,
I'll be at Martinsville.
Rob and potentially myself will be at the dirt track.
Yeah, I'll be down at the World
Championships.
Finals in Charlotte.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to
word,
go to that
November?
too. So.
Yes, sir.
Well, fuck, if Ashley's gonna try to go too, then that's all right. Well, we'll figure this out. Then
Do we
maybe
just
this
set a
is-
date?
Yeah, we might have just set a date.
Hell
so
yeah,
we'll see.
fire
glad
off
that we
the
could figure this out on the podcast.
fire off the gender reveal cannon.
Just a dirt cannon.
It's a dust cannon if we're talking fucking dirt track in Charlotte, man.
No, I
Well,
can't wait to go there. It looks beautiful.
It's a cool facility, but they ain't found the water truck in 20 years of operation. So
Well, before we get into the septic tank and all that stuff, we do have a DARF of the week that
do we?
I managed to find this one this week. So
let it rip,
in
Brian.
my I always scour Twitter and as much as I don't like Brett Griffin's feed, I do look and see what he says sometimes, whether it be once in a while he'll say something actually smart that I agree with, or he'll say something, fucking way out of pocket that I have things to say.
Well,
but,
when it comes to
he was-
racing, he's usually a pretty good guy to check in with.
His racing opinions are okay. It's his non-racing stuff that I have major issues with. But as far as racing stuff goes,
No.
there was talking about the Bristol race. There was a guy by the name of Jason McAllister who talking about the bad Jeff Gluck pull and people shitting on Larson, which again, not many people were necessarily shitting on Larson. They were shitting on the racing itself. But this guy decided that Jeff Gluck doesn't like Kyle Larson because of the N-word incident, and that Jeff Gluck is liberal. And he had a couple interesting tweets here. At Spotter Brett, doesn't help when Jeff goes on his podcast directly after the race and rants to all the second grade darfs of NASCAR Twitter that the race is horrible. Liberal media will forever negatively portray Larson's successes. It's a bigger problem than the racing. Jeff Gluck is extremely biased and has been since joining ESPN The Athletic. I believe he's instructed to be biased against Kyle Larson to cloud Larson negativity. And then he had a bunch of tweets of basically times Jeff Gluck talked about people dominating a race and how those were all positive.
He made an
times,
infographic.
He said to prove it, here are 8 of Jeff Gluck's tweets. ...
Let me just jump in and say this here. NBC, who covers NASCAR right now, that's about as lib as it gets for mainstream media. And when you flip on an NBC broadcast, all you hear about is how good Kyle Larson is and how he's the greatest driver out there right now. And even on Saturday night, it's like, I can't believe he just did this. That's the biggest ass whooping we've seen at Bristol or anywhere in a long time, blah, blah, blah. Which doesn't sound a whole lot like criticism from the left there. So
listen,
real dumb take there, buddy. Jason,
there are plenty of us that will still make jokes about that Larson incident.
Oh,
and,
every 15 minutes. Yeah,
they're always going to be funny, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, most of the racing world and the mainstream world have all kind of moved past it. I mean, Kyle did what he needed to do as far as making amends for that, and he's gone on to prove he's one of the best drivers in the country. And but yeah, to have that sort of take, and that's why Jeff Gluck said this was a bad race, is just one of the most insane ways you can look at all this, because that had absolutely
we're not,
nothing to do with it.
We're not quite an Ultimate 23 Dragon level here, but this is definitely a Rookie of the Year contender right here. I look forward to watching this guy's Twitter for the rest of the year. I would like to sentence him to 3 hours of phone banking for Kamala Harris, which is something that not even Democrats want to do. So that's your punishment, Jason. Good luck with that, and maybe put the phone down once in a while, bud.
Yeah. But moving on to that, now it's time for the septic tank, Rob.
Oh, yeah. We had a real busy weekend of short track racing. Of course, I love when NASCAR's got short track racing going on, too. This whole episode has technically been in the septic tank, which that's what I love.
The Farmer John's Porta Potty septic tank.
That's right. Brought to you by Farmer John's.
And you.
Andy Newsome, which, by the way, happy birthday, Andy Newsome, of course.
Yes.
Andy will make any racetrack experience better. And I know he loves and supports short track racing to a level that a lot of people don't. Of course, if you don't know Andy, he's a great photographer. He's out there at a lot of these places taking pictures of like crate mods and late models and shit like that. So he's out there in the shit, really putting in work. It's a labor of love, and I really appreciate him and all the other folks that do what he does to, show people what this thing is. And again, just a real positive guy to be around. So happy birthday, Andy. Yeah. He also went out to Bulls Gap and was taking photos there, and he was there for Scott Bloomquist's second funeral and his last ride out there. That was if it was anything like the Eldora experience, I'm sure it was an emotional one, and I'm glad he got to see that, and I'm glad that Scott got one more ride around the red dirt of Tennessee. But speaking of late models, Lucas Oil was in Knoxville this weekend for the late model Knoxville Nationals. Not a great track for late models. It's a little narrow. Honestly, if there was a late model race this year I'm going to compare to Bristol, it's this one. It was kind of a bummer to have that experience going in tandem with the Cup race a little bit. They did run it early on Saturday. Bobby Pierce getting a big win there. Jonathan Davenport getting the Thursday night win. Hudson O'Neal broke down during the feature. And, of course, this race is the cutoff race in the Lucas Oil chase for the championship. Ricky Thornton Jr., Jonathan Davenport, Tim McCready, and Devin Moran will be your championship four here going into the last 7 races of the year. No real surprises there. Hudson O'Neal was out for a little while, of course. He lost his ride over at Rocket earlier in the year. And now he's in Ricky Thornton's old ride at SSI. Ricky managed to find a ride over at Kohler, and it's been a whole fucking musical chairs of shit over in the late model world. But that's your championship 4. I got to go with Jonathan Davenport if I'm making a pick right now. But it's going to be an interesting show for the next few weeks here. In other news, in Brownstown at the Flow Racing Night in America show, the real deal, Don O'Neill, that's Hudson's dad. He actually stepped back in the late model tonight. Unfortunately, he did not make the feature, but his son did win tonight. So I'm not a big Hudson O'Neill fan, but that's pretty cool for his dad to be there on track, and then Hudson to come in there and get the job done. Brian, you might have some more insight on this, but apparently Pennsboro is coming back again. They're going to race this year, from what I've heard.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was always a plan, but they planned on doing a big race Memorial Day weekend, and that didn't happen. But things seem to be back on track for I forget what it's called. I don't know if it's the Mason-Dixon 100, but I mean, it's some sort of 100 is happening there. It looks like the last weekend of October.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, it looks like the track is going to be ready.
It's definitely old Pennsboro right now.
It's definitely it is the old Pennsboro. We're not getting that little quarter mile or whatever the hell track they were going to try to do. It's the old Pennsboro.
Yeah, you're not getting grandstands or bathrooms either, but it's going to be open apparently.
I'm going to try to be there for that, just because it's only about 3 hours for me. So we'll see what happens. I'm definitely curious as to see who's going to enter that.
Same.
But I would like to go to that for sure. So yeah, that's the Pennsboro news.
Speaking of other legendary tracks, over at Eldora, the Full Crown Nationals happened. Of course, USAC's 3 divisions, plus the high limit sprint cars ripped around the beautiful high banks of Eldora. Dason Persley put on a show, won 2 out of the 3 USAC features. Mitchell Moles picked up the Silver Crown win there. Enrico Abreu won the high limit feature in honor of Scott Bloomquist. He had a bunch of Bloomquist logos all over his top wing, no weak links, the skull, the 0, all that shit.
He did the crotch
and did
chop.
A crotch chop from the wing.
He did the crotch shot. Yes, he did.
Which is about as cool as it gets. I'm a big Rico Abreu fan, so that was really cool to see. Speaking of seeing, though, apparently you couldn't do a whole lot of that Eldora since it seems that they lost the water truck between the World 100 and now, and apparently it was dusty as fuck. And you see some photos from the stands, and hell, even watching the broadcast, it was like, I don't even know what I'm looking at right now. But,
yeah.
Shout out to a friend of the program and listener, Cameron. He's a great photographer. If you follow Altered Stock on Instagram, he was down there in turn 3, kind of texted with me while he was sitting there in the same place that I had snuck into during the World. And that guy's a fucking ridiculous photographer, so make sure you give him a follow.
He's probably my favorite out there right now.
Yeah, his shots from Eldora are unreal. So I recommend, again, Altered Stock on Instagram. Give him a follow. Meanwhile, over at Sharon, Dave Blaney won the Lou Blaney Memorial and just immediately retired. So that's right, folks. Dave Blaney, the Buckeye Bullet, no longer in a race car.
I probably would have been there if not for Bristol.
Just to run the stats. Of course, most of the NASCAR fans who probably listen to this know him as Ryan Blaney's dad, and as a Cup driver, he did have a long career in Cup. 473 starts in the Cup Series, 28 top tens. He did get an Xfinity win or a Busch win at Charlotte back in 2006, but here's the real stats right here. Is your 95 World of Outlaw champ. 95 wins in the World of Outlaws, also 49 All-Star Circuit of Champions wins, and just so many other wins outside of that. So an absolute fucking dog, Dave Blaney is, and we'll miss seeing him around, but I don't think there's any other way a race car driver wants to go out other than winning his final race and just saying, fuck it, I'm gone. Over in the World of Outlaws, Carson Macedo won the Dennis Roth Classic at Thunderbolt. David Gravel got the prelim night win. David Gravel's still on top of the standings, but Carson Macedo, Donnie Schatz, and Buddy Kofoid, particularly Kofoid and Macedo, still have some gas left in the tank here as we enter the final portion of the season. Of course, culminating at the World Finals in Charlotte, which it sounds like we're all going to be there for, so that's great news. Over on the pavement side, the NASCAR Modifieds were at Monadnock, which is one of my favorite racetracks up here. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it out there because I had other business to attend to, but Patrick Emmerling whooped their asses yet again. That guy's on a fucking tear right now. I don't know where he came from, but Patrick's always been pretty good, but this is his 3rd win of the year on the Modified Tour. Ron Silk, still has the points lead over Justin Bonsignor. 9-point advantage right there. There's only 3 races left. Again, going to be a titanic battle down to the finish there. Also in NASCAR news, Connor Hall is your national advanced auto parts champion. So good for him. And that's pretty much it for anything I watched or paid attention to this weekend. But there is a lot of short track racing coming up this weekend. Of course, the BC 39 at Indy. It's a huge midget show. Basically, the 50 good cars from the Chili Bowl are going to be there, minus the 350 bad ones. That's always a good show. The fall final at Stafford, which I don't know if I'm going to make it out to that, but I hope I can. Again, the Tri-Track Modified Series is going to be there. And Stafford is just an incredible facility. You've heard me talk about it on the show a bunch. You don't need to hear any more of that. World Outlaws are turning their way back towards Bryan. They're going to be in Ohio at Wayne County and Sharon. The Lucas Oil late models are going to be in Brownstown for the Jackson 100. Of course, everyone's already there for the Flow Racing Night in America show tonight. And of course, on the pavement side, the Valley Star 300 at Martinsville. That's all on Flow Racing or Dirt Vision, but most of that was Flow related. So if you have either one of those or a special link that you found on the internet, I don't know, illegalstreaming.ru or whatever the fuck you find it. Who knows? Make sure you watch these races this weekend, and particularly the Martinsville one. It's always a great show. But that's your short track septic tank for this week. And if you guys don't have anything else to add, I'm going to go ahead and call the cleaning crew in to spray this fucker down.
By all means.
It sounds like we need a good spray after some of the stories we just heard. So
Yes, really.
I'm out of breath. Otherwise, I would have gone on for another 10 minutes because this shit's filthy.
All right, so for this week, the video of the week, we had two short videos. The first one being NASCAR's dangerous history at Fonda Speedway, which is, so I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, for a track that's only probably 90 minutes from where I grew up. I've never been. I'll say this because, again, I grew up with two tracks within a half hour of my house, not even. So nobody in my family ever wanted to drive out to Fonda for anything. Plus, like, we're all Tremont fans, and he was running Friday and Saturday, so really no reason for us to go out there. So this was kind of a history lesson for me, and as I mentioned, this harkens back to my brief conversation with Richard Petty, where I somewhat disrespected him and challenged his knowledge, which I was wrong about. So. So anyways, this video is only 11 minutes long, and it kind of just really goes over the brief history of the origins of Fonda Speedway and NASCAR's history at the track. So, Fonda was originally at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds, and it was called the Montgomery County Fairgrounds Speedway. Track, started racing in the late 40s, I think, is right around the time that stock car racing and modified racing became a thing, especially in the Northeast. There were only 4 Grand National races run at the track, but there were a bunch more NASCAR sportsman races, which are really the meat of this video. But again, racing was started at the track by a guy named Jack Cockman. Right there, great fucking name.
Perfect name.
So he wanted to start a series that was called the Speedway Corporation of America, and he was trying to I don't even know what tracks were around in the Northeast at this point, but he tried to start this series, but it didn't really go anywhere. However, a bunch of money was pushed into the Fairgrounds Speedway, and that led to the track being renamed as Fonda Speedway, and it has pretty much remained unchanged since that time period up till today, which is pretty crazy to think about. But it's a half-mile dirt oval. It's not quite a regular oval shaped. It's a little oblong in places. I mean, if you watch the video, you can see it's got a wacky shape to it. But
who isn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah. But so going back to the video, around the same time of this speedway kind of starting up is when NASCAR first started, and eventually NASCAR didn't really have much of a presence in the Northeast, and it made its way up to Fonda. The first Grand National race was there in 1955. But prior to that, there were a few sportsman races, which sportsman is technically the Xfinity Series now, and Grand National obviously is the Cup Series. And really the video talks about a lot of the things that more or less happened at the Grand National races, or the sportsman races. So There was a race at the track in 1955 before the Grand National race. Now, there were 3 races before Grand National ever went there. In the Spring Sportsman race, they said 54 drivers showed up for a 28-spot feature. So that meant there were consolation races. In one of these consi races, a local driver named Otis Eaton flipped, and while his car was stopped upside down, another car hit him in the roof, which ended up killing him. And I would say the important fact to take away from this, and not that it necessarily would have saved his life, I don't think, but he was wearing one of those old school football style helmets that really were just leather. Like there was no padding, there was no plastic or composite reinforcement or anything. It was just like a leather football helmet. And if you want to say there's any sort of bright spot of this video or this incident led to NASCAR banning those helmets from competition. So it's a weird thing to say. There's some silver lining here, but the fact that someone died and this was one of the first big safety changes to happen, I guess if you want to look at that as a good thing, I guess you can.
Well, I mean, you want to hope anytime there's a catastrophic incident like that some sort of prevention measure comes in. Again, the silver lining thing, you could say that for a bunch of different folks, but I don't think it's too negative to say that.
Yeah, for sure.
Ultimately, a good thing, definitely saved a lot of lives.
Yeah. From there, they talk about the track itself and how in a couple of the turns, there wasn't really any sort of fence. I mean, there was like a chain link fence, but what that did was allowed fans to watch from outside the track. They would set up on ladders and build all sorts of platforms and stuff to watch to save money. But in another sportsman race, there was a wreck involving a driver named Jim Luke, where one of his tires flew off the car and flew into those fans and injured a few people and killed one of them, which that led to a actual fence being installed.
So if you're starting to see why Richard Petty was correct and Brian was incorrect, I think this is probably what he's referring to.
Something like that. But it's saying that, so as far as the actual Grand National race was concerned, that kind of went off without a hitch. Tim Flock won the pole and Junior Johnson won. However, this was the only Grand National race that was run in the 50s. They didn't come back until 1966. Continuing the video, though, there was another sportsman race in 1965 where a driver named Lou Smith wrecked. And it was a single car wreck. He flipped and unfortunately passed away after a few weeks. Now, he was actually the NASCAR, I think the year prior, the NASCAR Sportsman Rookie of the Year. So, and they said he was only 23 years old, I want to say. So, that ended a young career long before it should have. Then they came back in August of that same year for another race, and there was a driver, again in a consi race, named Pepper Eastman, who, again, flipped and didn't make it out of that wreck either. A brief aside from this video, I don't know if any of y'all caught it, but throughout the video, there was a bunch of time where there was text on the screen, and there were a handful of typos. Like there was an aerial shot of the speedway itself, and the guy spelled Ariel as in like the woman's name Ariel, which I thought was funny. And then right here, and then also there was a blurb about Pepper Easton being a local hero, but they said he was known as a local hero, but instead of the word known, none, like None, was there in place. So
he was none to run with the big dogs.
Straight out of the gate, he showed a picture of a car jumping a ramp, and the text said, this is a 1940s stunt driver, but the car is clearly from the 1960s. So straight out the gate.
Also, he kept referring to New York as New England, which it fucking isn't.
Yes, it absolutely
so y'all know.
Not. Yes,
I'm glad you noticed that, because that was bothering the hell out of me.
It made me itch, man.
That is why instead of I said Northeast because I'm from the Northeast and I know New York is not New England.
Now these racing scenes do intertwine. There's no question about that. But, New York is not New England. I'm sorry.
Yes, not at all. And then from there, we move on to the 1966 Grand National race, and they show a picture of J.D. McDuffie, who was there. This was a race where David Pearson beat Richard Petty, and those guys were the only two cars on the lead lap. And this was a 200-lap race, just for reference. Yeah. Moving on to 1967, the Grand National guys were there again, and Donnie Allison was supposed to race in this race, but Bobby Allison ended up taking his spot and just taped over Donnie's name on the side of his car.
Yeah, it was a cool little tidbit from this. I'd never heard that before.
From there, they also mentioned Tiny Lund, who had to borrow brake parts off of a fan's truck from the grandstand so he could run the race. And he led the early parts of the race until his axle broke, and then Richard Petty took the win, and he was the only car on the lead lap. So, again, going back to these pre-Winston Cup era races, I mean, you wonder why Richard Petty got 200 wins. We've already provided many examples as to how he's done it and talking about how the racing was back then. So, yeah. I mean, the glory days of NASCAR truly were the 80s and 90s, because you go back to the golden years like these, and this is just kind of how things were, unfortunately.
Here's Brian just shitting on Richard Petty yet again.
Listen, I'm not even saying. Forget it.
I agree. It's all good. Richard ain't listening to this shit.
Yeah, even my grandfather, who was a huge Richard fan, would tell you that same thing. Like, he won those many races, he had all the money and whatnot. But anyways, moving on. The next year, 1968, it was kind of the reverse. David Pearson was on the pole, and he led the early few laps of the race until Richard Petty took the lead at lap 21 and led the rest of the race. The other, again, potential error that this kid made in this video. So he shows a picture of Buck Baker, who's at the race, and he shows a picture of Buck Baker's Dodge, and on the screen he notes that Buck was driving a Chevy that was sponsored by Dodge, but in that photo, it's very clearly a Dodge Charger. Like, yeah, it's clear as fucking day. So I don't know what he was thinking using that photo, because that didn't really help tell a story there at all.
Well, it's YouTube,
Yeah. But really, the summation of this video is the fact that Fonda really he played a big role in helping build racing throughout the Northeast in this time period, and especially NASCAR's involvement. I mean, they mentioned in the video, like, even having someone like Lee Petty back then, you would get fans to come out and check out the races. So, as dark as this video was with all these different deaths, I mean, you also can't argue the fact that Fonda was a very important part of Northeast racing. And again, still to this day, like, technically the race, the Fonda 200 is still going, although it's run by modifieds now, but it's technically the same race that the Grand National guys are running in the 50s and 60s. So, I was very educated, probably more so than I should be for someone who grew up in this general area. But, for a random video that I stumbled across, I enjoyed it. So, any last notes from you guys before we move on to Cribs?
I just saw the thumbnail and thought it was going to be slap shoes and got excited, and then I realized it wasn't slap shoes, and I was less excited. But still, I learned some things from it that I did not know. Again, my New York racing history in particular is not as robust as the rest of as New England, that is, since New York's not a part of that. But yeah, definitely cool stuff in there. Again, that little bit about Bobby Allison driving his brother's car. I didn't know that, and that's a hilarious photo. And yeah, just spell check. That's all I got to say to this guy. Just do a little spell check.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely learned a lot of things I wouldn't have learned otherwise, but the way this video was put together, like, he just crammed so much information on top of each other, like the talking over top of the text that didn't have anything to do with each other, and it was too much for me. He lost me about halfway through until a very lively Zaxby's commercial popped up on YouTube and woke me up.
I didn't even know that there was text on there. I just listened to the guy. Like, I can't pay attention to both of those. So,
yeah,
good on him for at least doing the text. But, yeah, autocorrect is a thing.
Yeah.
But I thought it's cool. Thought it was cool that, you know, it kind of just goes to show you that they've been going after those safety precautions and safety measures since like literally the beginning of time.
Oh yeah.
It's just an ever growing kind of thing. So anybody that wants to say that, you know, I've heard people say to me that, you know, NASCAR is all about not caring about the driver, this, that, and the other, when clearly this has been a thing since the beginning. That
they were one of the first to do it.
Keep trying to evolve safety and, you know, taking care of the actual driver, and not even just the driver, but the fans too. Like just a simple catch fence. Like that's things that you don't think about. Like these are all things, all these things are in place because bad things happened before. So it's all in place to give us, the fans and the drivers, the best experience that they possibly could have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Well said.
Cool. And moving on, now I think I prefaced this
a really
video
hard left turn here.
Yeah,
This video, I'll say I loved it so much I watched it twice. So
same. Yeah.
I modeled my childhood after this video.
Yeah.
So Dale Jr. Cribs. Now I think we watched this video because we thought it was going to be his last NASCAR start, but it doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. But regardless, it was still a fun video to watch. It was only 5 minutes, but right off the bat, you know, while we've talked plenty about racing songs on the show and how there are a lot of good ones out there, as far as mainstream known songs, there aren't too many, and of course, one of my favorites is Jerry's Race Car Driver by Primus, and that's how Dale Jr. is introduced on the show with Primus playing in the background. So
yeah, I figured that's why you picked this video out, was because
I mean, no, but I certainly wasn't upset. You know, anytime I get to hear that song is always good. So yeah, this was, you know, very clearly Dale Jr.'s first like real house, because I know he's talked about his the trailer he lived in across from DEI or wherever the hell he was, and I think this is the first real house he had before he's you know, whatever house he has now with Amy, but just a ranch style house in, I guess, Mooresville. And you know, walking into the house, it's a pretty standard like 90s style living room, really. I mean, I'm sure he had his sister or somebody else decorate this for him, because it's just like a total fucking like suburban mom type layout as far as the
could have been my house, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very much not something you would think a 20-whatever-year-old
like a fucking Ethan Allen in there.
Suburban mom mixed with bachelor pad for sure.
Yeah. You know, Junior shows off his living room and he talks about watching boxing fights and how that would be his sport he'd be in, getting his ass kicked if he wasn't a NASCAR driver.
Yeah,
and once his butt whooped. Yeah. I will say this, and I think it's noticeable with some of these personalities that have been around NASCAR for 20, 30 years or whatever. Kenny Wallace is another one that comes to mind. Junior at this time period, like his voice is way deeper and he's way slower in his delivery and stuff. And I don't know how you compare 20-something-year-old Junior to the Junior now, but his personality is so much different. Like he just looks and sounds like just this little white trash hick kid at this point.
He's definitely more camera shy for sure.
Yeah, it's very clear. Like he's there just because he kind of has to be. From here, they move on to his bedroom, where the quote is, "This is my bedroom. This is where I, sleep." I'm sure he wanted to do the "this is where the magic happens" line. He just didn't have it in him to pull that off.
Nope.
And he showed off his 1998 Driver of the Year award, which was voted on by the press, which he was very proud of because the press was hard to impress at that point, I suppose. Then they show off his closet, which is all color coordinated and all sorts of T-shirts and shit. And he talks about his favorite thing in there being driving shoes that he borrowed from Adam Petty and never returned. So he's got, and this was obviously after Adam's passing.
Yeah, that was kind of a cool little moment.
Yeah, that was definitely one that only actual race fans watching this would have cared about. Then from there, shows off the dining room, which again, another Junior quote. "This is the dining room. We don't really do too much in here." But he shows off the Gibson Les Paul that was painted up like his car. He had a couple of these made. He sent one to Dave Grohl, who played one on stage, I guess, right after Dale had died. And Dale's talked about it on his podcast and stuff. So, interesting to see that brought up in kind of real time, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then from here, he shows off his basement bar, which I think the funniest part of all this to me was the fact that he had like a bunch of quads in there, like it was a fucking Rough Riders video. I still, out of that whole segment, that's the one part that's like, why? Like, why did you have, like, that's what I'd love to ask you. Like, why'd you have this down there?
Once I watched it the second time around, I was like, oh, okay, this is his basement, and this is probably the only place he has to store these when he's not using them. So why not?
Oh, come on. He has a garage and shit.
Well, he had all those cars out there.
He definitely keeps his fucking stock car in that garage all the time.
Yeah. I just love how much the basement looked like a strip club. Just straight up.
Well, he talks about that, how he had one of his club owner friends help design it, and he says he could fit 250 people down there. I don't know about that. That seems like a lot of fucking people. I would say maybe half that if you're lucky. But there's stripper poles and all that, and he talks about having a cooler full of beer, and I'm sure MTV wouldn't let him mention Budweiser by name on the air. But he talks about how he built the club because where he's at in Mooresville, he likes getting trashed at clubs, but you can't usually find rides home that late, which this is long before Uber was a thing. So that's why he decided to turn his basement into a club.
Same.
Which I get it. Why the hell not?
Yeah. There's a couple random people sitting around, and I wish they'd showed them a little bit closer, but at a glance, one of the dudes looked like TJ Majors.
Maybe we'll have to send that question into the download, have him answer that.
Or TJ and Mike both in the Cribs video, because that would be great.
Yeah, I couldn't tell who the other guy was.
I don't think Mike Davis was associated with Dale at this point. I feel like he came along like mid to late 2000s, like right around the end of the DEI years, maybe Hendrick, but yeah, it wouldn't have been Mike Davis at this point.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely worth a screenshot on Twitter to TJ to see if that's him, because that's a good point.
From there, they go on to the backyard pool area, which is a fucking pool. And Junior goes into the pool house, which has a tanning bed in there for some reason. And then he starts talking about the pictures of Marilyn Monroe on the wall. I think everybody needs a picture of Marilyn. What the fuck? Like, okay. I've never in my life heard him talk about Marilyn Monroe. Why? And then from there, the end of the video is just him showing off his cars. He had a red Vet that he got from Chevy after winning his first Busch title. Then he shows off his lifted red Silverado, which it's funny that he shows this off because he talks about this S10 that he's had since he was a kid. To this day, he still owns the fucking thing, and that thing wasn't there. So I'm very curious as to why that Silverado was there and the S10 wasn't.
It wasn't cool enough to make it on MTV Cribs.
Yeah,
that's probably fair.
Product placement would be my guess.
Mm-hmm.
That also could have been the case. And then from there, there's a Intimidator SS Camaro prototype that he shows off, which I can't remember if that was actually made at all, but whatever, it's a Camaro. And then his 96 Impala that he tells the story that his dad gave it to him.
The G
after
ride.
He started, yes, which he calls his pimp ride that he takes to the clubs. He said that his dad gave this to him after he started driving for his dad's team, but after Junior put rims on the stereo on it, his dad made him pay for the car, which is pretty funny. And then from there, he shows off his race car in the garage, which, come on. That was totally like any NASCAR fan would know that he's not keeping his fucking race car in his garage, which he gets in and drives off. And that is the end of the segment. So, that was Junior's. He was definitely on more than once, because I know there was another one where he moved into his other house and he showed off his, fucking Old Town, whatever, Whiskey River bullshit. So This was just his first Cribs appearance. So what do you guys have to say about this?
Well, like True Love already said, I love the shit out of this video. It's kind of neat to get to see him right after he got a lot of money and Ratatouille is
Yeah.
successful, and how
what he
somebody
spent
who
it
wouldn't
on.
know how to he exactly did not know what to spend it on. Like, I'm convinced that Marilyn Monroe poster just came from the mall or some shit, and it's like, it's the best thing at TJ Maxx or whatever. You know, it's like, I don't know what to spend my money on. Fuck it. You know, let's get a tanning bed in here. You know, it was definitely cool to see that, and again, like, just seeing a young Dale Jr. who doesn't quite have the media thing down just yet, but he's still very down to earth and honest, which I appreciated.
Yeah, I think I've said all the things that I love about this video. It's just a nice little time capsule of Dale Jr. in
The
that
early
moment.
2000s in general. A lot of great new metal in this.
Oh, the red North Carolina hat, just, that'll transport you all in itself.
Absolutely.
Begged my mom to buy me a North Carolina hat because of that guy.
Oh, yeah. Did you get it?
Little did I know.
Yeah, you're a resident now, so you can just go buy one at the Quick Trip now.
I can get one bedazzled now. It's great.
Fucking A.
Down at Kelly's.
Yeah, go see Kelly Earnhardt, and she's got a little workshop going over there at Junior Motorsports. You can get a hat bedazzled. But yeah, this is a good find. I think I've seen the other cribs before, but I've never seen this one. And like I said, it's just cool to see young Dale Jr. out there, just kind of being a shithead. And he's told a bunch of stories on his podcast, and it's all kind of public knowledge now. But it's kind of cool to see it in real time for the era of just what it was like to be him at that time, especially coming off the death of his father, and all of a sudden being one of the most famous athletes in the world. And I don't mean to project too much on it, but like, you can definitely tell he's not prepared to be who he's become.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely interesting to go back now, and I still got to go and reread his first book because I definitely read it years ago, but it'd be interesting to read it now, knowing what I know about him.
Yeah, definitely crazy to be coming off a weekend where it very well could be the last time he ever drives in a NASCAR race. Again, it sounds like he's going to do more, but just the fact that that's a possibility definitely makes you feel very fucking old.
Yeah, listening to his radio that night, at the end of the race, he was talking to the guys on the cool down laps, and he was talking about how much fun he had. He's like, that was a lot of fun. Maybe in a few years we'll come back and do it again. So
Well, it's all a sponsor thing. He even talked about it on a show this week where it's like, if somebody came to me tomorrow and was like, we'll sponsor one of your cars for another 10 races, but you got to drive one, I'll do it. He's like, I'll do it in a heartbeat. Like, that's why I do it. But it doesn't sound like he's done, so that's good to hear. But he did say he's definitely not running Bristol next time he runs. So
one other thing I read on the internet after the race was that after that Xfinity race, Dale Jr. becomes the oldest Earnhardt to ever race in NASCAR. So
Woof.
through Senior and Ralph, and so
wow.
I thought his dad was 49 when he passed. Junior's not 49 yet.
He's 50.
Junior's about to turn 50 next month.
Oh fuck, that's right. Never mind. God damn it. All right, never mind.
What a stat that is. Holy shit.
So that definitely made me feel very old.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of great new metal in there. Good stuff. So
yeah. Well, speaking of Earnhardts, so next week for the video of the week, obviously we got Kansas coming up this coming weekend, but next weekend will be the second Talladega race of the year, and we're gonna go back to 1996, a race that I don't think any of us probably saw live or even after the fact. So the 96 Die Hard 500, this was the race that Dale had his big wreck where he broke his collarbone and had the whole winning the pole at Watkins Glen the next week, or 2 weeks I should say, because I think the Brickyard was the week after. Regardless, the funny story about this race was, and I don't know where you guys all were at this point, but so this race wasn't ever supposed to be live. I think it was preempted by, I don't know if it was the U.S. Open or tennis or something, but it never was supposed to air live. And I remember, I think my family went to like Great Escape, which I think it's Six Flags now, but it's this theme park up in upstate New York. And coming home and hearing the news that Dale Earnhardt had been injured at this race, but it wasn't live. And this race was kind of lost to time for a while because, like, again, it was shown after the fact, and people kind of were losing their shit because, again, this news broke that Dale was hurt, but nobody saw it live because, even in the 90s, once in a while, these races were not shown live. They'd be preempted by other sports.
Yeah.
So I've never actually seen this entire thing because, again, like, didn't watch it live, and because the way it was tape delayed, like, we tried recording it and didn't even get the recording of it. So I was able to find the race on YouTube, and it's kind of an abridged version. Like, it's only 2 hours, and includes all the commercials, and it actually has some after the race stuff, like an interview with Dale after he came out of the hospital, and interviews with Ernie Irvan because he was involved in the wreck. So I've never actually gone back and watched this whole entire thing. So I found the whole video, and that'll be next week's video of the week.
Nice. I want to say I saw whatever broadcast it was, like when they did air.
It was on CBS.
But yeah,
like Talladega was like the plate tracks were all on CBS at that point.
I can't remember anymore, so that'll be fun to go back and watch.
I was 2.
You're making me feel old. Jesus.
Yeah,
Christ.
Jesus. Yeah, we're all like 10 years older than you.
I was 11.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was 12. So yeah. All right. Well, with that, we mentioned we mentioned Kansas this coming week, and it's weird to say we're gonna go.
Well, we had talked about it.
We had talked about it, but obviously life changed and. Yeah. Whatever. I was just at Bristol last week.
I spent all my damn money on that race pool that Brian took from me.
Yeah. Okay.
Picking Hudson O'Neal out of the hat.
Yeah.
Or Bobby Pierce, excuse me.
Yeah. Blame that on me. Okay.
Yeah.
We definitely all wanted to go to this race, but none of us are. But it's funny to say we're gonna go from probably one of the worst races of the year to potentially one of the best. Yeah. In Kansas of all places, but Kansas is putting on a show pretty much every race they've put on with this next gen car. So I think I'm sure we're all excited to watch Sunday. I'm very excited. So
I'm definitely looking forward
to watch
it. Even if it is a snooze fest, I think I said this before the show. It's my first weekend at home in like a month. So I don't even care, man. If it puts me to sleep, I probably need it. So whatever Kansas gives me is what I'm here for.
Yeah, the thing is, it won't though. I mean, at worst, it'll be a decent race. Like I'm sure it'll be a good one. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it.
There's one place these cars work. It's the 1.5 miles, man, and that's what we got coming up.
Yeah, it's fucking insane to think about how much we all hated those in the like 2000s, and now they're what we all look forward to. But that's where we're at as we're approaching middle age. But anyhow, so I guess before we go, I was gonna say I'm 41 in a couple weeks. So anyways, so before we go, so Kyle, we didn't totally dive into this. I mean, we briefly mentioned it, but so you just recently moved from Columbus to the Charlotte area in Mooresville, and so you are pursuing a career in NASCAR.
I am. I start NASCAR school next month. I have a Hendrick orientation this weekend.
Damn, straight to the top.
Yeah, man. Like I came out here Memorial Day weekend for the Coke 600. I did the whole bit. Like I came here Thursday night. I came here Wednesday night. Camped out outside of JRM, went through the whole line, met Dale Jr. and brought a bunch of stacks of I brought a big stack of my resumes, and every shop I went to, I basically handed out my resume to all of them. And I was fortunate enough that Friday to have a meet and greet with Chase Elliott over at Hendrick. And while I was there, did the same thing, handed out some paperwork and talked to the right people, and went around to NASCAR Tech, which is actually right next to JRM. Went and checked that all out, and literally got back home after the weekend, and not even a month later, I'm getting news that I'm accepted into NASCAR Tech, and I had an interview with Hendrick, and it was only on the grounds that I was going to NASCAR Tech. Like, that had to be the big thing, because it has to coincide with each other. So I sent them the acceptance letter, and it all just kind of happened really quick. I got everything situated and moved out here to Mooresville a little bit less than a month ago. And kind of had my inspiration tour for the first month. Went around to DEI, went to Penske, went to all the shops and went to all the Hall of Fames, and kind of just spent the month feeling inspired, and now I'm here, so I'm ready to just get after it.
That fucking rules, man. Good for you. You drinking Johnny Bootlegger yet? You had that from your local gas station? You know what that is?
Yeah, unfortunately I do. I got kicked out of the casino for bringing those in.
Oh, yeah. This is how I know we'll be friends, right there.
I brought a few of those into the Hollywood casino, and I shattered them all over the table.
Oh, no.
And yeah, I'm actually banned from the Hollywood Casino in Columbus, Ohio. Fun fact.
Yeah,
I'm not allowed back there.
Good riddance.
There's a reason why we quit drinking, bud. It was for the best. But I'm not trying to get too deep, but I got sober 2 years ago, and none of this would be possible without me doing that.
Yeah.
Because I got a job with Bass Pro, and Bass Pro gave me a bunch of opportunities, and the people that I worked with I worked at Cabela's, but it's all still Bass Pro.
Right. They
all pushed me to go after it, because I kept saying it. All I want to do was build engines, work in NASCAR. I've been doing mechanic stuff my whole life, and here we are. And I'm just trying to, like I said earlier, I'm just happy to be here. Just processing everything and taking it all in one day at a time, and just really looking forward to the future, because I think it's going to be pretty damn cool.
I would say so. Man, that's fucking awesome. Again, I've never met you before, but you're bringing a tear to my eye over here. That's fucking awesome, man.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
Thank you for having me. This whole thing has been great. I've met a lot of great people through this sport, and can't wait to meet you, Rob, because Charlotte's going to be a hell of a time.
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. And yeah, thank you for coming on and risking your career in its infancy here. Don't show them this.
Hey, look what I was on, guys.
Yeah,
Listen.
A prominent, the #1 unrefined motorsports podcast. Meet me at Applebee's.
Yeah, we could not be any more different than Dirty Mo content. So, yeah.
Well, I was there last weekend, and I texted Brian. I was like, should I record from here? Maybe just
let him borrow the studio. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll throw Dale a 20. I'm sure he'd be fine with it.
Yeah, just buy one of those bedazzled hats, and they'll let you in there. Yeah.
Don't tempt me.
All right. Well, like I said, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, Kyle. And
Seriously.
Again, thank you for the amazing weekend. It was so awesome to be a part of, and obviously incredibly happy for you and all the stuff you got going on. And I'm excited to be along for the journey with you, because I'll be checking in and excited to hear your progress and visiting and stuff. So I guess with that, we'll looks like the check is coming. As always, you can follow us at Meet Me at Applebee's on Instagram and Meet Me at the Bees on Twitter. I am Speedway Screens on all the things, and speedwaytsj.etsy.com is the shop. Mima, what are you plugging?
I'm plugging Andy Newsome content over at Snake Mountain _TrueLove. I've got a lot of shit that I need to go through and share, but I do want to give a shout out to all those boys that I camped with this weekend. I love all of them so much. Like, they're such an amazing crew. Absolutely my race family for life, and it's always such a great time with them. So looking forward to Martinsville with them coming up.
God damn, I wish I could go to that.
Cool.
Rob Motes _unofficial on Instagram. My band is called These Wild Plains. I do have something to announce here. We're playing at the Lizard Lounge in Cambridge, Massachusetts on October 18th with our good buddy Matt Charette. It's going to be a good show. It's our only show of the year here in New England. That's right, New England. The 4 states that encompass that, not fucking New York, okay? But yeah, we'll be there. It's going to be a good time. Also, my good buddy Charlie Marie's working on a record, and we're playing with her. Keep your ears to the ground for that one. She's incredibly talented, and this new record's going to kick your dicks in. I'm telling you. It's good stuff. And, yeah, I'm not going to the... Well, I might be at Stafford this weekend, but I think my next racetrack trip is going to be the World Series at Thompson in a couple weeks. We'll talk about it on the show. But yeah, I just got to echo everything you're saying. And again, I feel such intense FOMO here, to use a very online term. Anytime you guys tell these awesome stories about the racetrack with all these folks, because and again, like Andy is, he's part and parcel, like the person you want to meet at a racetrack. And
Yeah.
I've had good times with all y'all. Well, not Kyle yet, but I know I will at some point. But yeah, there's nothing like the racing family, man. It's a good thing, and it's why we do the show, to be honest with you. So we'll get a good one in pretty soon here. How about you, Kyle? Where are you at in the world? Do you want to tell people your Instagram now that you got a job? Or
Well, my Instagram name is now not Kyle Petty .39. Formerly Death Row Kyle, but it's no longer a cry for help, so we had to change that up.
That's good. It's the baby steps, man.
Not Kyle Petty .39. And once you see my face, you'll understand why that name is the way that it is.
Oh, hell. Well, again, thank you for coming on, man. This has been a blast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been great.
Absolutely. Well, the check is here. So thanks for joining us again at Applebee's, and we'll talk to you next week.